Hey guys, welcome back to the Midnight Movie and happy Halloween season. While we take a break from our review of the films of John Carpenter, which we started last time, we're going to review. I've got kind of an eclectic mix of movies here for the Halloween weeks and stuff that I think is really worth your time, stuff that I'm sure you've heard of, and stuff that I know for a fact you've probably never heard of, which leads me to today's movie, which, in my opinion, is the best werewolf movie you've probably never heard of. This was a movie that only came to my attention maybe a handful of years ago, and even then it took me a few years to watch it. 1981's Wolfen, which was directed by Micheal Wadleigh and stars Albert Finney, Diane Verona, great Gregory Hines, and the great Edward James Olmos in supporting roles, if you can believe it. And it fits hand in glove with genre, an era of cinema that I love. If you've been watching my movie reviews, I'm a big fan of 70s and early 80s film, and particularly 70s and early 80s film in and around New York, Chicago, the great metropolises. And Wolfen from 81 takes place in the New York of the time of the early 80s. It was shot in 1980, came out in 1981, and it's kind of a crime horror thriller. We follow Albert Finney, who some of you might know as he was Daddy Warbucks in the 1982 version of the film version of Annie, the musical. That's kind of where I knew him from. That was one movie that was, for some reason, always on when I was a kid. It was Star Trek II, Wrath of Khan, Annie, and Jaws. Go figure. But I love Wolfen. I love werewolves. I love the werewolf story. I love werewolf films, but there aren't a lot of them that are really done well. We all know that sort of the holy grail of werewolf films is An American Werewolf in London, directed by John Landis, which I think also came out in 1981. So maybe that had something to do with it being Wolfen, being overshadowed. But Wolfen, it really is quite innovative in its own right in that it pioneered use of sort of the point of view shot. The wolves in this film have heat vision. It's similar to what we would come to see in the original Predator film. You know, the Predator has sort of like that infrared vision to track his prey. Well, that's basically what these wolves are doing, and this happened, a full 5 years before Predator came out. And it's a really, really effective technique that they use in this film. Essentially, a former NYPD captain, played by Albert Finney, he's Detective Dewey Wilson, is kind of called back to the force to help solve the murder of a rich real estate developer and socialite named James Vanderveer and his wife. They're brutally murdered in the park, and it's not clear who did it. They kind of the folks that are kind of around this initial investigation think it's left-wing anarchists that are unhappy with, Vanderveer being sort of legacy money and this rich capitalist, but it doesn't quite line up. One of their bodyguard, who is of Haitian descent and is familiar with voodoo, his own ties to this sort of lead to suspicion that maybe it isn't, anarchists. Maybe it isn't a terrorist group. Maybe it's something else. Well, what do you know? It is. They find non-human hair at the death site of Vanderveer and his wife, and this sort of leads our main character of Albert Finney sort of down this rabbit hole of investigating. Okay, was it an animal? Well, that doesn't make sense because he has the hairs examined by a local coroner saying, yeah, no, these animals don't exist in New York City. Well, around the same time that he's doing all these investigations, Finney's character, Wilson, runs into and has some exchanges with some native guys played by Edward James Olmos and a few other actors whose names I don't recall. They look somewhat familiar, and we start to weave in this legend within the story of, okay, obviously we know that indigenous people have a closer tie to the land, as it were, and have a closer tie to nature than the colonists that would come over and basically develop what we now know as the United States. And so there's this interesting tension going on of Albert Finney needing to kind of trust his gut based on what he knows and what he can see, and these things that he's learning from these indigenous guys. And it's a really fun back and forth within the story. And what's really cool, not to spoil anything, but the wolves in this movie are actual wolves. I don't know how they pulled this off, but they really did. And they're ferocious. They look so cool. Add that on top to that, these wolves seem to be hiding out in areas of the South Bronx in, again, early 1981 New York. New York City at that time, the South Bronx was basically being leveled. It had, people don't know this, or some people don't know this, younger folks don't know this, but New York went through a real rough patch in the 70s. The city was bankrupt, urban blight, people leaving, the city just running out of money, and places like the South Bronx really just kind of became almost like a demilitarized zone, something you'd expect to see in sort of a post-apocalyptic film. And so it became sort of this perfect area for them to shoot this film. You have these dilapidated churches and these crumbling apartment buildings, entire blocks that have just been leveled because at the time they were leveling them, would all be rebuilt. Well, it turns out that these wolves that have existed for a really, really long time, because they're not just wolves, they're spirits. They've had to live in the underground, and they've had to hide away from man. And sort of this most recent area that they've been hiding from man from, what do you know? It's the South Bronx. And it works really well. These wolf spirits, these wolves hiding out in burned out, dilapidated old churches. It just looks really gothic and spooky and moody. It's beautifully, beautifully shot, this movie. Add on top of that an excellent score and really just top-notch actors delivered this at once police procedural, at once sort of a spiritual, supernatural mystery, and then you've got that whole, that grit of early 80s New York City and, the metropolis and the grit of that, the interplay of all of these seemingly, what would you say, contradictory concepts and textures and themes all kind of coming together really makes Wolfen, for me, one of the really underappreciated gems, not just of thrillers and of horror, but definitely of werewolf movies, because it doesn't unfold the way most werewolf movies unfold. There is that tension of man intruding into nature's space, even though, of course, man is part of nature, but that tension of man learning to live in rhythm with, in sync with his surroundings. And yeah, again, it's just so incredibly well shot. The locations are beautiful, the atmosphere, the point of view from the wolves with that sort of infrared heat vision. Oh man, it's so good. It's so good. Wolfen is, again, it's so worth your time. This is something that you should watch. I would follow this or start this with a double feature of An American Werewolf in London. This with Silver Bullet from, I can't remember, it's either 85 or 86. There's only really a handful of really great werewolf movies, at least that I'm aware of. If there's more, please let me know down below. So Wolfen, American Werewolf in London, Silver Bullet. Man, what else is there? Dog Soldiers, which I believe is a Scottish UK production from 2002. That one was fun, but there's not a ton. And of course, the original Wolfman with Lon Chaney. That's a real treat. That one still looks amazing. But beyond that, werewolves don't get the love that zombies or vampires get, and it's too bad. I don't know. I don't. Maybe it's a harder character to write for. I'm not sure. But Wolfen probably has been so far my favorite watch of not just this, but almost any Halloween season. It hits all of it for me. It's that late 70s, early 80s, gritty New York, sort of uh, dilapidated but gothic, modern but ancient. So cool. And again, how they managed to get this pack of wolves that they had for this movie to cooperate and do what they do, also on top of the use of the wolves. Talk about amazing practical effects. Wow, this is another one that I can't believe nobody talks about, because there are some uh, there's kills in this movie that are so well done. And yeah, it really, if you're one of those people who just like to fun kill, obviously this movie is sort of peppered with it. It's not the crux of it. It's not about the kills, but man, when they happen, because again, you have this drama and this police procedural going on, it hits really hard, really hard. Um, yeah, there's one kill in particular, maybe two, that I'm just like, wow, the genius it took to make that look completely real. There's some movies that, oh, I didn't mention The Howling. Howling is a great werewolf movie, but even in The Howling, there's a scene where a guy's transforming into a werewolf and this woman's kind of standing right in front of him. You don't have anything like that. Again, it's super real. If there were werewolves in downtown Manhattan or parts of the Bronx, I feel like these characters react the way actual New Yorkers would react, and they wouldn't just stand there and just go like this. They'd be like, "Oh," and get out of there, hightail it, run away, fight, all that. So it is one of those movies that feels real in how the characters react to the situation. Sometimes incredulously, sometimes like this is total BS. Sometimes like, whoa, is that what I think it is? Okay, everybody, start backing up now. It's so good. So yeah, do yourself a favor. Go over to Tubi right now. We love Tubi over here. I think it is pound for pound one of the best streamers out there. The depth and breadth of the types of movies that they have, I think, best in streaming right now. Just if you're a movie person, but go to Tubi and check out Wolfen. And I'm telling you guys, it's so fun. It's so good. This is a movie you can watch at night. This is a movie you can watch on a stormy, rainy afternoon. This is something you could probably watch with your teenagers. I think there's maybe one love scene in the whole thing. It's real quick. It's again, it's the early '80s. It's something wild. It's something that I feel like I probably might have watched on TV when I was 14. But yeah, better late than never. I'm so glad I found this movie, Wolfen, 1981, starring Albert Finney, directed by Micheal Wadleigh. Check it out, guys. You won't be sorry that you did. I'll see you in the next one. Bye, guys.